Start us off and introduce us. My name is Charmian. We run a residential home as Mercy UK, and I work in that home as the curriculum manager. So I manage the curriculum that the residents get taught. And this is Catrina, who's going to introduce herself.
Hello. So I'm the Director of Services at Mercy UK. So one of the services, as Charmian has already said, is our residential programme for young women. We also offer training, some of which we're going to be touching on, giving you a little taster about some of the things that we do. We offer resources, a remote support helpline, so individuals themselves that are struggling, or people helpers, pastors, organisation leaders, they can ring in confidentially if you want signposting to other places. So if we don't know about who you are, make sure you tell us about who you are so we can help others find you, because we want to be able to partner with what you do as well. What are you passionate about, Charmian?
Oh, that's a good question, Catrina. I'm passionate about seeing people find Jesus and find freedom in him, and then walking that journey out. Because we all know that when we encounter Jesus, he changes our lives. But actually, there's a journey that we have to go on that means that we sustain that freedom and we keep walking on that journey. So that's what I'm passionate about, is helping people keep walking on that journey. What are you passionate about, Catrina?
Shall we get on, can't you? I know, this is going to be a slightly different seminar to what you've had earlier, because we are going to share the time that we have. We also are really good friends, and that comes across because we then just vibe off of each other, so we're going to pass the microphone back and forth. We are going to have time for Q&A at the end, so if you have a burning question, please either come and find us at the stand, or save your questions and we'll try and have time for that. We have started a little later than expected, so we're going to see if we can squeeze out a few minutes at the end of it, if that's possible. I am passionate about Jesus getting everything he paid for, and people getting everything that he died to give them. So I just want to make sure that he gets his full reward, and however that happens, however that looks, one of the ways that I love to do that is through the work of Mercy UK. So that's us, Mercy UK.
Amazing, thanks. Cool, so I'm just going to do the first part, and then Catrina's going to come up and finish off and add to whatever I've said and fill it up with more things. Cool, so you will hopefully all have received a partnerships form. We kind of wandered around and gave you all of those. If you would like to partner with us, or you'd like to find out more about what we do, about the services that we offer, about the training days that we offer, then please do contact us. We promise to not send you 100 spam emails. We will literally just contact you and find out how we can help you help people. That's what we do. We help people help people. So as you can see, this is one of our slides. So we're committed to educating leaders, equipping individuals, and empowering churches through effective discipleship resources, pastoral support services, and residential homes. So at the moment, we just have the one home, which is in Bradford, not just outside of Bradford, in a little village called Oxenhope. And as I said, I work in that home. And we implement those things. Pastoral support services, we pastor the women that we work with. So we walk alongside them and we do a curriculum with them, as I described. I'm a curriculum manager, which means that I walk the girls through the curriculum that we have, and it's a discipleship model. And I know that Steve up here was talking about Keys to Freedom, and that is a resource that we have. So we do training courses on Keys to Freedom, we deliver Keys to Freedom, and actually the principles within Keys to Freedom are the principles that we use within our residential programme. And they are biblical principles that are about encountering Jesus, encountering freedom, and walking that journey of freedom out, and looking at the why behind our what's. Because like Steve was saying, there's always a why behind the what. We don't look at the what, we look at the why. So it's like, okay, well, you have this issue, but why do you have this issue? Okay. So there we go. These are our session objectives. We've had an introduction to the work of Mercy UK. So hopefully you've got a little bit of an idea about what we do and what that looks like for us. We'll look at how we can support your organisation or church and impart hope and key principles for the work that you do. So there should be a video here. If you want to play that, that'd be awesome. Can turn the most painful situations into something of purpose and value, and you can be
the personhood of Jesus Christ, separate to the church and separate to religion.
We can take our hopelessness that we hold and our brokenness and we can put it on Him.
There's a testimony from me saying that you can get out of it and that you can see hope restored to you.
We get to witness the hand of God in the glove of human circumstance and human organisation. That might be the church. It may be mercy. But I can tell you now, mercy is not the answer. But we will signpost you to the good news.
So that is one of our promo videos that we did for God TV, and that just gives you a little taster of the home and of, as you saw, people graduating out of the home. So when somebody's done, sometimes they've done their time then, my goodness me, done their time. It does feel like that some of them. But after they've done either 6 to 9 months, or shorter, then they have a graduation. And that's where we celebrate them, and we celebrate Jesus and all He's done, but we celebrate them and the journey that they've been on and the breakthrough that they have had. So that's our promo for that. We also have another one that I'm just going to show you that is our new promo video that is just a little bit about what we do now as a Christian discipleship ministry movement that we have. If you want to play the next one, please, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Life is like a journey full of wild adventures and exciting hopes and dreams with the people we love. But the journey isn't always easy and the terrain gets tricky to navigate. Sometimes we find ourselves stuck in our circumstances, swamped by our lack of finances, trapped by anxiety, struggling in our relationships, and as hard as we try, we can find ourselves feeling alone and no longer able to enjoy the journey. But God has not left us abandoned, stuck, or alone. Mercy UK exists to educate, equip and empower you and your church for the journey. You can find hope and healing in a safe place with safe people. Be transformed by the keys to freedom that keep your life moving forward, and learn tools to help others navigate their journey. Isaiah 61 says, "We are sent to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives, and comfort those who mourn." Together we can see you and your church whole, restored, transformed, and equipped to impact your community with a message of hope and freedom. So let's get started.
Okay, so like our vision statement says, we are here to restore hope and transform lives in partnership with the local church. That is what we do. That is why we exist. And we're committed to it. It's our cause, it's what we do, and we're very much involved in local church life and what it looks like to be a people helper. And all of you in this room are here because you're people helpers, I'm guessing. And you're all here because you love Jesus, and you're all here because you love seeing people walk out their freedom and walk into freedom. And actually as a resource, our heart is to resource you to be able to do that well and to be able to do that healthily. So as I've already said, we have a residential home for women aged 18 to 30. And one of the things that one of the language uses that we will say is when we're talking about addictive behaviours for us, we're going to talk about historic substance use as well as behaviours such as self-harm, workaholism, gambling, eating disorders, codependency in relationships, all those addictive behaviours, not just the substance abuse ones, but actually the other ones that we see as well in life. We have our Keys to Freedom discipleship course, which I spoke about really briefly, but that is a great interactive course. Like Steve said, it has got elements of freedom in Christ, same kind of elements. It's all Bible-based, it's all Jesus. So we offer that, which we've seen amazing breakthroughs there. We've seen people walk free, and that is our heart, isn't it? To see people walk free and to keep walking in that freedom. We do Empire training days for people helpers. So if you are a people helper And sometimes you feel a little bit unstuck and a little bit like, I'm not really sure how to help people effectively or how to stay healthy while I'm helping people. Then we offer Empower training days for people helpers. So if you want to book yourself onto one, come to our stand and chat to us. We've given you those partnership forms, so feel free to fill one of those out and give it back to us. And we'll get in touch with you and you can get booked onto one of our courses. And they're a great tool to help you help people well. We also offer remote pastoral support, which means that obviously it's remote. So we have a team of women who work with Catrina who offer that pastoral support. So if you were to, we actually have men as well, we do. They're new to the team. Because we don't just help women, we actually help the entire body of Christ. So our mandate is the body of Christ, not just women. So if you want to call in for remote support, you are welcome to do that. If you want to signpost people to us, to call us for a little bit of support, then you are welcome to do that. We gladly take phone calls. That's what we do. Cool. As you saw in the promo video, one of our founding verses is Isaiah 61, and actually that is our mandate as the bride of Christ, isn't it? That is our mandate as a church, is to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn and provide for those who grieve in Zion. That is our mandate as Mercy UK, and that's the verse that we stand on, that we exist to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives. And that is essentially what we do. It's kind of crazy, we both have to pinch ourselves sometimes that we get to work all day, every day, in the environment where we see people walk in freedom. Honestly, there are some days I have to walk over the side and I'm like, do they know they're paying us? Because this is amazing. And when we have breakthroughs in the home, we ring a breakthrough bell. And honestly, sometimes we go over the other side kind of in a bit of a zombified state, like, did you hear what Jesus just did? Because it's incredible watching him work all day, every day, and I'm sure for some of you there are some stories that like we've talked about already that are painful, and we have those stories too. You know, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. You know, some days are flipping hard work, as I'm sure you all know, and you don't always have success stories. You know, we're not saying that we are the answer, like it said in the promo video. We are not the answer. We are part of the answer, and actually there are going to be some people that we try and help. And as I'm sure all of you have encountered, it's not always that straightforward, and the road isn't always easy, and it isn't always straightforward. Okay. So our core values are that we provide residential homes completely free of charge. We don't charge the women a penny to be there. It costs about 15 to 18,000 to see a resident through our residential program, and our home can take up to 15. So we do it all completely free of charge. We don't take any money from government. It's all funded by people who give, and we give 10% away of our unrestricted donations because we believe in tithing. You know, the Bible talks about tithing, and that's really important to us, and it's a core value for us. Cool. So one of the things I want to talk to you about just briefly is addressing the whole person. Because like Steve said, actually there's a why behind people's what's, and we want to help the person understand why they are operating the way that they're operating. So we will look at body, soul, spirit, and our residential program looks at the whole person. So when a resident comes to us, we have a curriculum that we deliver to them, but it is tailor-made to them, what their specific need is. So we don't just give them a curriculum and like that's it, that's what you're going to get. It's like, okay, how do we make this fit you? How do we help you walk out what we're teaching you? And then we have a health and fitness coordinator, so she works with the residents to help them get fit again. You know, I'm sure a lot of us in here have had times where actually we've just needed that little bit of extra motivation to keep us going. So we have that, and we have the health and fitness coordinator also does our food, and she makes sure that there is a healthy, balanced diet. So we teach the residents what it looks like to live in a healthy lifestyle. So it's not just spirit and soul, actually it's body too. How do we live well as the body of Christ? And we help them to figure that out. And like I said, address the whole person. And actually one of the things that we look at in a residential program is people's readiness for change. It is their decision what they choose to do and what they choose not to do. And if a resident comes to us, if 2 months in they're like, actually I don't want to be here, that's absolutely fine. You know, they have to be free to make their own choices on the journey that they're on. There is no there is no freedom in you forcing someone to do something, as I'm sure most of you in here have experienced. So actually we're really mindful of the person's choices. So when a resident applies to us, the application process can take up to a year sometimes, where a resident will apply into us and we'll work with them to get them to a point where they're stable, because we are not a medical facility. So we work primarily with women who are at a stable point in their journey. So people, sometimes if they've come out of rehab, we would ask them to spend a little bit of time outside of rehab so that they have learned to outwork the principles they've learned, so that when they come to us, they're a bit more stable, and then we will walk with them through a discipleship program. So it's generally a 6-month stay, but sometimes people do stay for a little bit longer, so 6 to 12 months sometimes. And then we have aftercare, so we have a transitional care team who will work with a woman for a year after she's left. And it will just be an opportunity for her to call in and get that ongoing support. So it's not like you've left us and you're on your own. We'll keep walking with you on that journey, and then after a year and a half, a year, they will move over to remote support. Because our heart is to keep walking with you long haul in the journey. Because as we all know, we can't go alone. We were created for community with God, but also community with each other. So we're really mindful of that, and we try and ensure that that happens. So that's actually our home in Bradford. You can see some of the photographs there of the home. Yeah, so we'll look at the underlying causes, the whys behind the whats. Empower training. Yeah, so this is the tree analogy that we will often use in Mercy. So we will look at the soil of circumstance. So what are the circumstances that surrounded the roots that were formed in your life? And what are the roots? So we look at things, it's got a mind of its own, isn't it? That's its own thing. So the roots are our background. So there's the things that have taken root in us, the lies that have taken root in us. So things like abandonment, rejection, worthlessness, pride. And then they create our belief system, which we would call the trunk. And then after you've got your belief system, you then see the behaviours. But if we cut off the behaviours, you still have the root system. So if you cut off a branch, it's going to grow back. So what we aim to do is we help people look at the root of the why behind their what. So when we do that, what we see is people creating new belief systems, which create good fruit and good branches, as the Bible talks about. Ooh. Yeah. Does that make sense? Cool. I'm going to pass over to Catrina, who is going to contribute.
Apparently we've got a naughty clicker. Right. I'm just going to skip back for a second, just to look at our one-day people helping course. It's called Empower. So we've taken a few snippets from this to cover today, because we want to be able to look at how do we do this for the long haul? I don't know about you. I mean, you'll probably guess trying to figure out how old Charmian and I are, because it happens everywhere we teach. I have been working with people for 19 years or so far, and so that dates me in some of your mind. But some of you have been doing it longer than I've been alive, and the fact that you're still doing it tells me that you're getting something right. And we want to help come alongside you so you can continue doing it right, continue doing it well, continue doing it healthily. But I was sharing with someone earlier, we took a survey a couple of years ago and found out, it was a well-known summer conference, so tens of thousands of people were there. A large sample of those people filled out our survey. It was on people helping. We discovered that 65% of them didn't feel equipped to effectively people help. And we've been doing Empower training at that event for about a decade or so. We've tweaked it along the way, but we want to use you, the fact that you can do it and you do know what you're doing, and celebrate that you know what you're doing and can do it, and put additional keys in your hands so that you feel equipped for the long haul, including what does it look like in the transformation process. So many of you are probably thinking of specific individuals as you've been here today. You've got names, situations, prayers for people that you are wanting to work with. Maybe they're, to quote change theory, maybe they're pre-contemplative, maybe they're not quite there yet. And you're wearing the carpet out on your knees because you're wanting to help them get to a place of readiness. And part of what we look at in our assessment processes is where are they on the process of change. So for some people, they want to change, but as they start to embrace those keys of what change looks like, they start to realise that actually there's a big responsibility to change. Because on the other side of change is freedom, and freedom is really costly. Even though the highest price has already been paid, hello, Jesus, thank you, there's still a price tag to it. And so one of the things that we seek to do in the Empower training is to put things in your hands that you can actually help assess where people are at. Is it that you need to coordinate your care with them? Is it that you need to practice different boundaries with them? Is it that you need to signpost them elsewhere because where you are on their journey might be a few steps ahead yet? So one of the things that Charmian mentioned is that someone needs to be in quite a stable position to make the most of the discipleship process that we have. That doesn't mean perfection, it doesn't mean that they need to have all the ducks in a row, because if that were the case, I wouldn't be standing on this platform, hello. It's that they're able to be ready to change and sustain it with support. So they might still be struggling with self-harm, they might still have suicidal thoughts, they might still be tempted on their weekend passes to go back to that boyfriend, to go back to that den, to go back to, insert situation here. But they have enough resilience in them to be able to withstand if they knew how. So our program teaches the how and the what. And if we can understand why, and if we can help you understand why, then jobs are good. Jesus, come back now. That was meant to be a joke. It's all right. You have to laugh a lot in this work, right? Cool, right. Okay, where did we get to? I'm going to have to swap hands. Okay, so when we look at the soil, one of the things that we're aware of in working with addictive behaviours is sometimes the soil hasn't changed yet. So their family might still be the same, their social relationships might still be similar, they may need to come out of their setting, and that's not always practical. So although our residential programme, the one home that we have currently, is in West Yorkshire, we do take applications from young women all over the UK and Europe. Essentially, if they can get a visa and they can, satisfy all of those implications, then they would be entitled to apply to us. Because we understand that sometimes you just got to get out. And there's got to be a safe place that you can go, a safe situation to start processing what are the roots. Now, the roots can be universal. The branches, there's nothing new under the sun, Ecclesiastes teaches us. So if I haven't done it, if Charmian hasn't done it, if someone else, we've helped someone who has, and if we haven't, never heard of it, every now and then you get those one random situation, you're like, well, that's a new one on me. It doesn't happen so much anymore, but there's still time. Jesus does know what he's doing with people. And you guys and ladies are really good at knowing what he's saying. You're really good, I felt earlier, to encourage you that you do respond to him. Those random, gut instincts, those little popped into your head when you're in the shower, those ideas, or driving and you're like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. That's Jesus equipping you for the work of service, which is what Isaiah 61 talks about. You are anointed to do what you do. Sometimes there's those days where I refer to them as hiding under the desk days. You're like, okay, yeah, someone else can make the decisions, I'm getting under here. We have those, thankfully, not as frequently as we did in the early days. Praise the Lord. I account some of this work for as many, this is not my natural colour. I'd have a lot more grey on show if that were the case. The branches are never the problem, but it's what we get presented to us. And so, the Bible teaches us about having, the difference between bad fruit and good fruit. Well, if the soil if we had the same soil, we'd probably have the same fruit. Hello? When you understand what someone's been through, what they've gone through, and what they're going through, having that sense of compassion and empathy means that, oh, wow, we could actually say, I'd probably have made the same decisions. Branches tend to be universal because the roots tend to be universal. It's just the soil that's different. Okay. I'm going to talk about the power of hope. Kind of need a third hand. Like, click. Maybe you can set up a brain link for the next time I teach. So, there is a process to change. We teach our young ladies and those that ring into our pastoral service, we teach them to find out what it is that God is saying. Sometimes that looks like discipling someone to know that God actually does communicate, and that He is a present God and He wants to be involved in their situation, that Emmanuel means like God next to you. I had a conversation recently with a taxi driver who was of Islam faith, and he said, okay, wait a minute, are you telling me that God would be under my feet? I'm like, well, does it sound like I am? And he said, well, it sounds like you are. Well, if you understand perhaps the theology of it to an Islamic believer, that would be pretty heretical, that God could be that present with you. But it blew his mind. And he ended up getting healed with a pain thing that he was dealing with, just because I started talking to him about the presence of God. Well, that's the ordinary everyday stuff that you are all involved in as well. Those simple analogies that help someone grasp the fact that Jesus is with them, and that can be the signpost to their hope and their change. The power of testimony. As Charmian mentioned, when someone comes through our program, we celebrate them. We have a graduation ceremony, and for some, that's the first time they've finished anything. Like, they've never been able to complete a course or a season of life. They've never had the opportunity to embrace their potential. So we celebrate their process, their starting point to their finishing point right now, because we know it's a process. We bring in new young ladies as someone else is finishing the program, so they can hear, oh, you were where I was sat. And sharing our own journeys as well, teaching, embracing, saying, do you know what, when I was struggling in a similar area, this is what worked for me, maybe you could try that. The power of testimony. Revelation 19 says it's the spirit of prophecy. So when you share a testimony, when you share hope, when you share encouragement, it literally takes what could be in someone's future and brings it into their present. And that could give someone the impetus, the tipping point, to then be able to go, oh yeah, maybe one more day. Sometimes people just need one more day, one more hour, until their breakthrough comes. And so giving some the opportunity to anchor themselves into their promise, and you can borrow promises, it's all good. I mean, Scripture is essentially a whole bunch of sermons that someone else wrote, aka Holy Spirit. We nick them all the time. Well, if you then translate that into, well, this was encouraging me the other day, can I share that with you? Can I teach you how to find that? Can I teach you how to apply that? That's what we look to do. We also encourage active participation. So, as we shared earlier, educate, equip, empower are the tenets that we build what we do on, all of our services. You should be able to cut it and find an E in there somewhere. I'm saying that flippantly, knowing that our substance users probably have that similar factor as well. We want to empower the individuals to have personal responsibility in their process of change. Now, on the one hand, we have a dichotomy that for many, they may not be able to do without certain things. Like maybe there's a chemical imbalance, maybe there is a medical need, and actually they are at that present moment feeling powerless over their behaviour. But there should be at least one thing that we can empower them to do that will take some personal responsibility. Because actually if you take that to one side and say, well, it's just the addiction, it's just the alcohol, it's just the this, it's just that, what are you doing? Potentially victimizing them in their thought process to stay in their process of change. Now that's quite a challenging thought, if you just followed me. To not give someone the opportunity to take personal responsibility could be keeping them in the pit that we heard earlier on, Psalm 40. But for some, it just could be the difference between them coming off a substance and not. Just talking, I can think of a few residents that we've had over the years where that has been the case. They had never been given the opportunity to be strong. It had always been someone else's fault, or it was the addiction, or it's this, or it's that. And generationally, when you're dealing with generational patterns as well as the Bible teaches, there's a lot going on that may enforce something, but we get to inform them about what Jesus says about them. Amen?
Amen.
Yeah, got one in the front row over here. So, knowing ourselves and our remit. You have to know what God's called you to do. Because if you know what God's called you to do, you can stay within the boundaries of that. That's where your grace will be found. Over the years, we have had many opportunities to go off in a different direction. Any resource that we produce, is there a youth version for that? Is there a this version for that? When are you going to open a home for men? Well, we respond, but we always take it back to Jesus. Is this something you're asking us to do? Did you know that through Keys to Freedom, we have now helped more men than have ever been through our residential program for young women? Isn't that just how, that is just how God would work it? Like, you keep doing faithful, 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 one step at a time, and He'll take care of it, because do you know what? He knows the need. But the Jesus that I meet in my scripture, he wasn't driven by need, because there were some people He just left. Like, that challenges me. The empathy, the mercy in me wants to just help everybody. But you know, when you know what He has called you to do, in the season He has called you to do it, there is safety in staying there. So we always go back to our vision. We had it at the beginning. Transforming lives and restoring hope in partnership with a local church. Now, maybe you're here representing an organisation like we are. We're not church. We can still help you because you're coming at it from a Christian approach, or at least you have a Christian ethos. So if my car breaks down, praise the Lord, it's not going to happen, I'm not going to take it to a plumber. Unless I'm not in a good decision-making day, or I've forgotten where I'm going, which is more to the point. I'm going to take it to a good, reputable, credible mechanic who I've got a history with, or someone has recommended me to, because I want my car fixed, not my plumbing. It's the same thing. You have to know what it is. So we regularly will revisit our mission statement. We will regularly review in our staff meetings, what is it that God has given us to do? Just the other day I was in a strategic leadership meeting, and we were hashing over the table, a lot of different ideas. Is it this? Is it that? And fundamentally, we all stopped. We are here to resource believers. Right. Okay. We literally had to take it right back down to grassroots level. Knowing ourselves and our remit means that you can maintain focus on the vision that God has given you. You be faithful with that, He'll give you more. Now, it's not an exact science. Sometimes we can feel like we're being obedient and faithful, and it still doesn't work out as we think it does. I'm not sure what to tell you, other than ask Him. He's good at giving answers. There is the push through, the perseverance. Sometimes we just have to keep going, and there's grace for that. There's also a good safety net in knowing what we're here to do and what we're not to do. So, one of the things that knowing what you are here to do and what you're not here to do is knowing who else is out there so you can send people their way. Okay? So, our remote pastoral support is a point of contact. So, if you get someone who's like, I want to know, is there a counsellor in my local area? We can do some of the legwork for you. We're not a referral service, we will partner, so we're not going to say you're guaranteed to get help from this place, but hey, we know of these credible organisations that may benefit you if you'd like to look into them. Here's how you vet somewhere, here's how you find out, test them. We do encourage people to do that. I think I have pressed the cheeky blinker. Where are we going? There we go. Okay, it's available to any individual regardless of age or gender. We are just upfront about the fact that we're going to come at it from a Christian perspective. So if someone is wanting another faith perspective, we're going to say, okay, we celebrate that. That's just not us. So we have to know who to pass them on to. We have a database. We've been working on it for about 10 years. It's ridiculous. There's hundreds of things on there. We have to work. It's a full-time job just keeping it up to date because things change all the time. We also offer, part of it is to offer a confidential signposting service for you guys. So you are doing it, you are on the front lines, or you are leading teams who are on the front lines. And sometimes things go wrong in our lives, and we need somewhere to go. So you can talk to us if you need that. We will always signpost someone that's engaged in active substance misuse to a medical facility. So whether that's their GP, or psychiatrist or something like that. We don't have doctors and nurses on site practicing in that way. We have people that are trained in all manner of fields, but we're not asking our staff to be that. We want to partner with what you're doing because that's what God has asked you to do, and if that is the case. So, if they are dealing with the effects of a previous or historic substance abuse problem, then we can definitely look at that. I can think of people that are applying to our program right now that are on drug replacement schemes. We can work through that with them, but we are going to be looking at they wouldn't be able to keep taking that if they did come to us. So, would they want to come off? Or can we signpost them elsewhere and support them remotely to find that help? Okay. Keeping ourselves and our teams healthy. So, some scriptures that came to my mind as I was preparing for this. I'm just going to read them out really quickly because I feel like they're promises. Whoever was going to be in the room, I felt like there were some key scriptures that were promises for you. Psalm 16, verse 6. Boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Recognizing where we start and other people begin brings a blessing over our lives. So it's okay for you to say no. In fact, it's imperative that sometimes you do. You need to steward what it is that God has given you. Sometimes you need to say yes. I got the sense that some of you in this room, God is asking you to step out into something that's freaking you out. Guess what? It's probably Jesus. Because he knows more about what's in you than you do. And he's more committed in getting it out of you than you are. And that also works with the people, the precious lives that you're working with. Zechariah 4:6. This is the word of the Lord, it says, not by might, not by power, but by his Spirit. When you come to the end of yourself, sometimes it's the best place you can be, because then he can get in amongst the muck and the mire and reach in with his Spirit that created everything, and bring that power encounter or that truth or that moment that keeps people relying on him, not you. Because sometimes there's a connection, an attachment, a rapport, and people just end up wanting you and not him. That's not how it works. Because he is going to be with them in their prison cell when you're not, hopefully. He's going to be with them on the front line. He's going to be with you while you're not sure what to say to them. So it works both ways. What was the other one? 1 Samuel 30, verse 6. David was greatly distressed because the people talked of stoning him. But what did he do? He strengthened himself in the Lord. Some of you need to go back to the beginning of why you got into this work. And you need to be reminded of what God promised you so that he can strengthen and encourage you for the next season. In 1 Corinthians 12, there are distinctive varieties of ministries, but it's the same Lord who served. Don't get distracted by comparing. Don't look to what other people do and the way they do it and compare that it's how you should do it. God shows us other places so we can be inspired and so that we can partner, so that we can be united. If there is any sense of second guessing, then just deal with it. Because it's preventing you from stepping into the fullness of what it is that God has called you to do. And we need everybody present. We need everyone doing what it is that they have been called to do. Okay. I'm going to pass back over to Charmian for a moment.
Got my book. I just wanted to highlight Keys to Freedom. I know we've spoken about it a couple of times this morning, this afternoon even, but this is our Keys to Freedom workbook, and it is an opportunity for people to go through their root system, essentially. So we've got the root system in here, but it's an interactive discipleship tool where people can do small groups and they can work through it together. And we look at, like I've said, the roots and the branch system. We look at hearing God's voice. What does it mean for you to hear God, to sense God, to feel God? We all sense him in different ways. We are all individual, and he is a God who cares about each of us individually. So he's not going to speak to me in the same way that he speaks to Catrina. So actually, one of the things that we look at in Keys to Freedom is, how do you hear God? How do you go on your journey with him, and how do you sustain that journey with him? We look at committing and connecting fully to Christ, and this is kind of our discipleship program that we do with our residents. So we look at committing fully to Christ in here. We look at renewing your mind. Well, what does the Bible teach us about renewing your mind, and how do you actively do that? Because it's all well and good having the Bible verses, but how do you actually implement those verses and those principles in your life? So we look at that in Keys to Freedom. Healing life's hurts. We've all been hurt somewhere along the line. So how do we heal those hurts? How do we walk free from those painful situations? And that's something that we look at in Keys to Freedom. Breaking generational patterns. You know, we all have things that have come through our family line, things that we just do. And it's funny, when I'm teaching the residents, it's one of the things that I talk about is butter. So my mum always bought Flora. And when I left home, I found myself doing the same thing. And then we went shopping together, and she was like, Charmian, why are you buying Flora? You hate Flora. And I was like, because you buy Flora? And that's a silly analogy, but actually, it's those things that are learned things that we just think, well, that's just what our family do. But actually, they're not healthy things. So we look at, how do we walk free from those things in Keys to Freedom? Using your authority in Christ, we all have authority. He has given us authority, but how do we implement that? And how do we use that? We look at that in here as well. And maintaining lifelong freedom. You know, this isn't just something that you do once and put it on a shelf and forget about it. Actually, these are principles for lifelong success. So this is something you can do over and over again. So it's something that you can revisit over and over again and keep yourself walking in that freedom. And the people that you are working with, this is a great resource for them when they're at that point where they've committed to Jesus. But actually, you can walk them through this and get them into some levels of healing that mean that they can sustain that journey, that they can keep walking out that journey of healing that they've started. Can we move on to the next slide? Okay. Well, one of the things that we're going to talk to you about today, it's testimonies, there we go. So I'm just going to do this for a couple of minutes and then I'm going to hand back over to Catrina. We have, like Catrina said, we've had a lot of residents come through our home. I think it's 250, around about, residents come through our home. Not all of them are going to be testimonies of complete breakthrough. Actually, we've got a few that residents haven't seen that, but we have a lot where they have. And we've had a recent graduate who was stuck in that lifestyle of drugs and alcohol, and that was her life, and she's now walking free. She's walking completely free from all addictions that she was living in and the chaos of life. She has learned principles that have meant that she can walk that journey out. But we also have a recent resident who actually wasn't able to do that, who made choices to go back to that lifestyle, and we honour that choice that she made. And does it break our hearts? Absolutely. Is it sad? Absolutely. But actually, we have to honour the choice that she has made. And so whilst we celebrate all the breakthroughs, we also pray over the not so breakthrough moments. So I'm going to hand back over to Catrina, who's going to finish us off our session today.
Thank you. Cool. So, we are better together. We would love to find out about what you're doing so that we can signpost people to you and so that we can pray for you and be informed about what's going on around the country. If you are part of a network of something, let us know what the central thing is so that that can be really well disseminated. But we'd also love for you to stay in touch with us. So you've got a couple of different handles that you can get in touch with. Far more brainier people than I deal with all of that. I just know we have them. So if you haven't had the opportunity to take one of our information brochures, if you haven't been over to the stand yet, please come and chat with us. If you've got access to one of the partnership forms, it's a three-way thing. Tear off the bit where you fill out your details. As we said earlier, we're not going to send you a whole bunch of stuff you didn't ask for. We're very GDPR compliant, I'll have you know. But if you like what you have heard, or at least intrigued by what you've heard, if nothing else, then we would love to talk to you about offering some training to you. If you would like to invite us to come and speak, If we haven't, oh, I'm not even touching it now, someone else is, awesome. If we haven't offended you entirely, then we'd love to come and, maybe we can come and talk to your service users, or maybe we can come and speak at your church. Maybe you would like to come and see what we're doing. Because we have our headquarters on the same site as our residential programme, we're not open to the public, but we can on certain occasions invite groups of people to us, such as Isaac UK North Regional Meetings. So yeah, we'd like the opportunity to just be able to find out more about how we can partner with you. And in closing, I felt like Jesus wanted me to encourage you that you're doing a really good job. He's really proud of what you do. That he, you know, we hear it quoted all the time, well done, good faithful servant. But you know what, you're a child of God, as we heard earlier. So you're not just a servant, you're a friend. And he's really pleased with you. So yeah, that's Mercy UK.